Welcome to Get Your Rear in Gear with Lori. I'm your host, Lori McAfee. Today, I am so excited to have someone that I actually met through our Unstoppable Mastermind group with Amberly Lago, and it is Mary Katherine Stahl. She is multiple fitness location owner. She's a fitness coach. She's a podcaster. She's a wife, but her greatest title is being a mom. So, welcome, Mary Catherine. We call you MK. And so, I would like for you to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Lori. I've been so excited about this. And yeah, I have met so many incredible women in the Unstoppable Mastermind. Truly blessed to be in that group and be
Yeah.
connecting with you today. So, who is Mary Catherine? So, at the young age of 26, became a client at Fit Body Bootcamp.
Wow.
And at the time, I was in like my second job out of college, not really sure what I was supposed to be doing with my life at that point, but I knew the job I had, it was not fulfilling. It wasn't my forever position, and I was actively seeking something else, something bigger. And so I became a client at Fit Body Bootcamp, started going to boot camp with a friend, joined a New Year challenge they had going on. And within the first few weeks, I fell in love. I fell in love with the culture, the community. It wasn't just the workout, it was just this energy that the coaches brought to me every day, and it was helping me show up in more ways outside of boot camp than I ever could have imagined. And I was able to, stick with that job that wasn't so fulfilling because I had this energy inside of me that I was getting from Fit Body Boot Camp. And so after being a client for a few months, I came home to my husband and again, very young. I was a newlywed. We had just gotten married 6 months prior. And I come home and sit my husband down, who's a physical therapist, and I said, I want to open up my own gym. And of course, at first it was kind of like just he thought it was just an idea. And then he realized, no, she's serious. So I just kept talking about it and talking about it. And I studied communications in college. I didn't have like an athletic training or like a coaching background, but I'd always loved fitness.
Right.
And we started looking into the franchise model. It ended up just being a great business model for a young couple that both loved fitness. And so my husband and I, we joined forces. We opened up our first studio in 2017, and then fast forward, 6 almost 7 years later, we've opened up 3 studios, and we're master franchisors for the state of South Carolina, which
Okay.
means we pretty much own the rights to the entire state. And if you open a location there, you work with my husband and our other partner, Joey, and you work with us to own your location and get it to be a top performing location.
Wow.
And then I also host the Beyond the Scale podcast, which is for the Fit Body Bootcamp brand. And we have close to 280 locations nationwide, and we're rapidly growing. So that is me in a nutshell. And then also, I'm a mom. As you mentioned, that's my most
Yeah.
important title. I grew my business and grew my family at the same time. Two things that require so much time that we seem to not be able to get enough of.
Right.
But I love the way my life turned out by doing it all together. And my kids are almost 3 and 5. So I'm busy doing all the things over here.
You are very busy. So, MK, how do you juggle owning these multi facilities and being a mom and a wife?
Yeah, well, no day is perfect and no 2 days are the same. And there's not a ton of balance. There are days where I am all in on momming, and then one day I might be working a little bit more than I would like, but it's just necessary and a part of the job. I will say that I do feel truly blessed to work in an industry that every day I'm getting better because not only am I bettering myself through health and fitness, but I'm helping other people. And
Right.
doing work like that makes it easier to step away from your family and have that time where you have to put the grit and the grind,
Mhm.
because you're helping other people. I'm helping other women be they're feeling better about their bodies, they're feeling healthy, they're living this active lifestyle, and then they get to go home and be a better mom to their kids
Right.
and to be a better spouse and just show up as their best self. So I think that is, one of the reasons why it's easy to do what I do. But it's hard to juggle it all. It really is.
Yeah.
And I know every mom out there, we're always striving to find balance, and it just doesn't exist.
It doesn't. I agree. I'm one that doesn't like the word balance. I like the word rhythm. We
Yeah.
live
Oh,
in
I
a
like,
we're
yes.
we live in a rhythm of life, and we have
Hmm.
to find the rhythm that fits us the best.
Yeah.
Before we jumped on the podcast, you and I were kind of chatting back and forth, and you mentioned a time in your life that the rhythm wasn't going exactly like you really wanted it to. Would you
Yeah.
speak to that just a little bit? Because I think that my audience could really gain some knowledge and some wisdom and some hope and encouragement from you through that process.
Yeah. So, this can relate to a business owner or any mom or female who finds that, the path they took in life, when they're along the journey, something might happen in which makes you second guess, like, was this the right decision? Should I have done this? Or maybe I don't want this anymore. Maybe you're throwing your hands up and you're like, I've worked so hard for this, but I just don't want it. I want to walk away. And that's kind of what happened to me about a year and a half ago. So, my son, he was really little, like 6 months old. I had two locations that I was heavily involved in, like needed to be there every day. And they were 45 minutes apart. And I can only be in one place at one time. And I also needed to be home with my newborn. And then, my daughter who was 2.5. And I was trying to juggle it all. And then also, I was in the process of opening up a third location with a partner. And this location was 4 hours from me. And though it was always known that I wasn't going to be there, there was a lot of work on the back end that I had to do. And I was so excited to expand my business and expand my impact and grow my team. But there came a point where every day I was kind of waking up like, how am I supposed to manage this all?
Mhm.
And I actually kind of feel emotional talking about this, even though it happened a year and a half ago. But it's like I just kind of looked in the mirror like, this isn't working anymore. Like, something's got to change, and I'm the only person that's going to be able to make that change. And so I started praying about it. I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to be in all these places. I need some leaders. I need some people to walk into my life that can help me. And one day I had this guy reach out to me on a whim. He was a coach at a Fit Body boot camp in Michigan. I live in Virginia, just as
Wow.
our audience knows. And he wanted to talk to my husband and I about this fitness competition that we were running at the gym. And so we were like, sure. So we hop on a Zoom call with him and, we have this great conversation. And then a few weeks past, he reaches out to us again and says, hey, I just wanted to put it out there that if you guys are ever hiring in Virginia, my wife and we went to school in Virginia and we'd love to move back to Virginia. And we were like, oh, interesting. Okay. Well, we're not really hiring for like a coach right now, but
Right.
we'll keep you in mind. And then a few weeks go by again, and one day I'm like, you know what? What if they moved to Michigan and ran one of our studios? Because like I'm drowning here. Like I can't do this anymore on my own. I'm constantly saying how I need help, and here is somebody that says they want to move and help us. And so him and his wife, fast forward a few months later, uprooted their entire world. They had a little one and another one on the way, moved to Virginia. They step into a leadership role within our facility. They start running the studio and everything's going well. And then a year into him running the studio, he actually ends up purchasing it from us.
Oh, wow.
And he then had the opportunity to have his own studio. And we're really great friends today. My husband and I still like coach him, but he came into my life at a time where I had worked so hard for what I had and I was proud of it, but I was overwhelmed. And I was at overwhelmed to a point where I knew that something had to change. And so, I shared with you before the show, like God
Mhm.
put this person in my life. I know he did because I didn't even know this person. He was a perfect stranger to me. And he came into my life and was able to help me, but also build a beautiful life for himself too, in the
Right.
process. And so I guess my message here is that, sometimes we get to a point in life where we work so hard for something and it doesn't necessarily feel like we thought it was going to feel once we achieve it, or once
Right.
we reach that goal, or we accomplish that thing, once we reach that milestone. And that's okay. And like it was really hard for me to come to terms with that like what I had worked so hard for, it was okay that it wasn't necessarily what I wanted at that time. And God had a bigger plan. And by him, coming in and taking over that studio, it allowed me some other opportunities. And I wouldn't be sitting here with you today and wouldn't be hosting my own podcast if I didn't have some of that lifted off my shoulders and then onto someone else and provide that freedom and opportunity to do other things.
Yeah. That's beautiful. One thing that we're learning and we're doing Experiencing God. I don't know if you've ever heard of Experiencing God before, the study, but it talks about God is always at work around us, and we just have to join in with Him.
Mm.
And that was a time when you really needed God to come in into your life and to help you in this situation. And He was working in that man's life before you ever had any idea what was going on. And that is so
Right.
cool to me, and how
Yeah.
God orchestrates all of that together.
Oh,
So
definitely. Definitely.
so how have you stayed committed in the things that you do with your facilities and with being a coach and the journey that you're on? How have you stayed committed in that? Because that's so hard. We it's so easy to get to lose our way.
Mm.
So how have you stayed that course?
So I wouldn't say that I've always been committed to everything at all times. We all, lose sight sometimes of what's most important. And
Mhm.
I think the message there is I have had to really define what I value the most and how I need to be spending my time. And so, like right now, my kids are young. My job is flexible. And so I have to very much like plan out my time in a way that I make sure I'm spending it on the right things that are adding value to my business, to my family, and that are helping the life and the lifestyle that we've built. And, we had a mastermind meeting this morning, and I
Yeah.
briefly said, you know, I worked so hard to create systems and boundaries to live a lifestyle in which would allow me to show up for my family in more ways than I could have ever imagined. Because, as a working mom, we all talk about the struggles of we want to be there at dinner time, we want to be
Right.
there when our kids wake up. And I'm going to say right now, like in the beginning, when I was building my fitness businesses, if any of our listeners are in the fitness space, I mean, you have early hours. You have to be at the gym sometimes at 4:30 in the morning. You're going to
Right.
miss that wake up time with your kids. You're going to miss when they go off to school. You're going to miss breakfast. You're going to miss dinner sometimes. And there came a point where I said, okay, I want to do less of that and I want to create a team so that I can be there more. But once I got to that point where I could be there more, I then had to say, okay, I got to stay focused here. I can't be a mom 100% of the time. I do still have businesses. I have a team. So I have to really make sure that I am dividing up my time, setting those boundaries and spending my time wisely on things that are adding value to my life. And if they're not
Right.
adding value, then I'm not going to stay committed to those things. I'm
Mm.
really only going to stay committed to the things that are like my principles, that are my foundational values in my life.
Mm. Okay, so I feel that this is going to take us into another little area here. So you just said something that if it's not adding value to your life,
Mhm.
you don't do it.
Right.
Does that include things that you enjoyed? Does it include people, or does it just include work? Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
Like, um, because what I see so often is that we don't want to get rid of those things. Even if they don't add value to us and they're probably even holding us back some, we
Mhm.
still don't want to let go of them because they're kind of attached. We're kind of attached to them. So when you said that, it really hit me. We need to remove some things in our life that don't add value so that we can stay committed to the things that are the most important, that align with who we are right now.
Yeah.
So when you did that, did you have to get rid of some things that you really didn't want to?
That's such a powerful question. And like, I could really dive deep on that, but one thing that comes to mind, and I think this could probably resonate with a lot of people, is that, like, have been times in my life where let's just talk about, like, our social groups, our social
Mhm.
circles. That's typically the first area that women, we feel like we need to make our circles smaller in order to stay focused on that next version of ourselves, leveling up. Like, and it's so hard because, I have friends from high school. They don't live near me anymore, but they're living totally different lives than I am. And like I support them from afar, but we really don't value the same things. And so I
Right.
can't give a ton of energy to that. The same goes for the people that are in your backyard that you're spending time with. An example would be like for me, I am in a book club with a bunch of great ladies. They're wonderful, but they like to drink. And I enjoy a cocktail, a glass of wine every now and then,
Mhm.
but I don't like to really drink. I mean, I'll have
Right.
one, and I know that if I overindulge or if I partake and I stay up till midnight and I'm out doing that, away from my family, the next day I'm not gonna spend anything on things that are gonna move the needle, that are gonna add value to my life. I just can't do that. I can't do that if I want to continue on this path to always being better. And so that's an example for you, and I'm sure other people can relate of things that like I just kind of have to set those boundaries. And one thing I'll say too is I think a lot of women they struggle with the like all or nothing mentality.
Yeah.
Like you want to attend the event and you want to be able to partake in the cocktails or all the fun, but you're so nervous about saying like no, or what are other people going to think of you if you don't drink or if you
Mhm.
don't partake in the activities that they're doing. And so they end up just not going and they remove themselves. And so, like, it's that all or nothing mentality. I challenge you to show up
Mm.
with these people and be your own person and make your own decisions
Yes.
and leave when you want to. Because
Yes.
then you can have it all. You can do both. It's
Mhm.
hard. It takes discipline, but that's the point I've gotten to in my life, and I just stay so focused on how do I wanna show up tomorrow? How do I wanna be for my kids? What do I have going on at work? What excites me right now? You gotta remember all those things, and that's gonna
Right.
help you set boundaries and remove all of the things that aren't gonna add value to your life.
Right. I love that how you said, show up as your own person because so many people want to show up as with a mask on. You
Mhm.
know, this is who I am here and this is who I'm going to be when I get home or this is who I'm going to be tomorrow. Why don't we just always be ourselves?
Yeah.
If you don't drink, that's okay. I can still be a friend with you. You know,
Right.
that doesn't
Right.
that doesn't that doesn't sever our friendship. It's
Mhm.
just that's not me. That's not who I am. And I love that. I love that you said that. And, you know, for someone out there, it's giving them permission to be who they were created to be.
Mhm.
And I think that a lot of times we let that mask hold us back from truly ever
Definitely.
being who we were created to be. And you said something else too about that you don't want to drink as much as they do. You may have one glass of wine or so, and that's fine. That's enough for you.
Yeah.
But with that, you can't be where you are and go where you're going.
No.
You know, you can't stay there and then move forward because, like you said, it's not going to move the needle.
Right. Yeah.
How far do you want your needle to move?
Oh, as far as it'll go, I mean, like, it's gosh, that's such a great question. That's such a great question. You hear people say, spend your time on needle moving activities, making sure you're moving the needle every day. How far do you want your needle to go? How do you want
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a great question.
Where do you see it?
So for me, like I'm really focused right now on um impacting people in real life. So
Mm.
this is a topic that I could talk about to great lengths, but right now there's so much noise on social media. And it's good noise, it's bad noise, it's all the in between. And, a lot of people have on a mask, as you mentioned. The highlight reels aren't really people's real life. And one thing that I noticed is I was happiest with my business when I wasn't focusing on social media. Back when we started
Mm.
our first fitness business in 2017, we had Facebook, we had Instagram, TikTok, all of the things. They were just kind of coming to surface though when it came
Right.
to marketing yourself as like a personal brand and your business. And so that was all just getting started. And so what I was focused on at that time was connecting with people in real life, was making an impact in my real community, the people that I see at school drop off, the parents of my children's friends, and the people in our community. And I want to get back to that because I very much love helping people in real life, and I have seen the impact that my studios can make in people's lives in and outside of the studio. And like, yes, I would love to spread the message nationwide, but I want people to realize that there are people in your backyard that you're impacting in a good or a bad way, whether you like it or not. And we
Exactly.
all need to make sure that we are walking around showing up as our best self, inspiring others in real life, not just on our phones, on social media, but in real life at the grocery store, at the Starbucks, at the PTA
Right.
meeting. When you talk about the needle, that's where I want my needle to start moving more right now, is just
Mm.
helping people realize the impact they can make in the people that they're around already every single day, and
Right.
how every little choice, every decision that you make, it's impacting your children, the people that you're around. And I want everyone to just be living their best life. And
Right.
so, that's what I talk about on my podcast a lot. That's where I want my needle to go.
That's a great place for that needle to go, I promise,
Yeah.
because I totally agree with you. Statistically, we are the most connected we've ever been with
Hmm.
society, but yet we are the most disconnected and the most depressed
Yep.
community that we've ever been.
Yeah. We're
And
so
to me,
lonely.
we are. That speaks volumes. We are, we can be in a crowded room and, like you said, feel so lonely because we don't know how to connect with someone now.
Hmm.
We've lost that connection. And I believe a lot of that comes with that mask that we wear. I
Hmm.
believe a lot of that is because there's a mask. We're afraid to ever remove that mask.
Yeah.
I love that. That's the way you want your needle to move, is that
Yeah.
impact in the world, because that is so powerful. For people to their character makes a difference, and like you say, people are
Hmm.
always watching what we're doing. They're always seeing how things are going in our lives. They're seeing how we react or respond in situations. I
Yeah.
love that. That's very powerful. And yes, that's going to make a difference in the world.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like, as a mom and doing the work that I do, like I am now primarily working from home. I'm pretty much a remote person in my work. Um, you can feel very isolated, even though you are connected. As you said, we're the most connected as we've ever been. Even though you can be communicating with people all day through text messages, emails, DMs, you can still feel lonely at the same time. And I encourage like anybody, like find people in your community. For me, my husband and I, like I never thought he would be this way. So I grew up Baptist, went to church every Sunday, every Wednesday. I was always there. My husband was Catholic, did not go to church as often. When we got married, that was a big topic of conversation. Like, okay, what religion are our kids going to be? What kind of church are we going to go to? And so we church shopped for a while.
Yeah.
And we found one that we love when we moved to where we live now about 4 years ago. And any Sunday, we're like, I'm not feeling it. Like, oh, let's just watch it online today, or let's just watch it on the couch. He's like, nope, we are going to church no matter what. And we have found that community within our
Mm-hmm.
church. And we love that so much. And so, like, if there is a week where I'm feeling lonely, I'm feeling a little depressed, isolated, even though I'm so connected with my work, when we show up to church and we're in that community with other people, you feel so uplifted, like you feel so great. And so my message would be like, if you're ever feeling like that, you have to find people in your community, whether it's at church, some small group, anybody, the moms at school, like find a group of people that you can be with in real life, because it's going to help your mental health drastically.
And I'm all for the body of believers. I believe that that is where we grow. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That that your husband is so firm, standing
Yeah.
on that. No, we're going.
Yeah.
This is the way that this is going to be. I love that because to me that is such a message too to the leadership of a man
Mm.
and I love that. I really do, and that's scriptural too. So
Yeah.
we could talk a lot about that too, but we'll keep that for another podcast another
Yeah.
day. Um, so we're going to come to closing here before too much longer. And is there anything that really is coming up for you that you really want to tell my audience? That you really feel like would be impactful?
I think that too often, so within, all the changes that I've experienced with being a mom and business ownership, one thing that I will find is once that person took over my location and my life changed a little bit, I kind of felt like I had a pause in
Mm,
my entrepreneurial journey. Like I kind of everything just kind of came at a standstill, and I was, some stress was kind of lifted off of me because I no longer
right.
had to manage this location. But new opportunities were opening up. But I kind of felt like everything was just stationary for a little while. And I think a lot of women, especially moms, we come to a point in our lives where there isn't a lot happening. Maybe we are comfortable. Maybe each day does feel like Groundhog's Day, and we're seeking more excitement, and we're seeking, something better, and we're trying to find it, but we don't know what it is. Like that time will pass. It's temporary, and never make permanent decisions based on
Mm,
temporary feelings.
that's
And
good.
we're all guilty of that. Sometimes we feel that things are permanent that aren't, but we don't realize that because we don't know when it's going to end. Like we don't know what's going to come next. And you don't always need to know what's going to come next. You just have to have faith that you are where you are right now and where you're supposed to be, and you just need to keep showing up every day and doing the things that are going to help you feel good, and doing things that are going to help you love yourself. And it can be so small. It could be just going to the gym. It could
Yeah.
just be, maybe you're going to start, I'll talk about fitness for a second. Maybe you're going to start meal prepping or planning out the meals for your family for a week. Like maybe you're going to make like small little changes. And one day those small little changes, they may amount to something huge.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of times, like, we just get stuck in those moments in life where we feel like the pause button has been pushed for us. We don't know what's next, and we can kind of get down on ourselves. And again, the message is just like, that's so temporary. Like, there are great things coming. You don't know what it's going to be, and you don't always have to know. As long as
That's
you just
right.
keep showing up every day, taking action where it counts, and
Mm.
spending your time wisely.
Taking action where it counts. That's good. That's good. I love that. Yeah, that pause sometimes can feel like it's going to last forever.
Yeah.
And I always say that either where life is a circle and you're either going into a trial, in a trial, coming out of a trial, or on top of the mountain. And
Mhm.
then you're going to fall through that same process again. And it may not be a serious trial, it may be something very small, but it's still a trial for you. But just, and one thing I always tell people remember in Psalms 23, David kept walking. He didn't stop walking. So, in those pauses, like you said, keep moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love that. Someone
absolutely.
shared with me recently that, like, life is like a series of peaks and valleys. So it's like a lot of times what you see is when people are on that peak, they kind of forget about the valleys, and you have to stay humble, still put in the work, still show up every day trying to be better even when you're at the top of the peak. Like, you may feel like you've reached the top because you never know when that valley is going to come.
Right.
And once you're down in that valley, going back to the temporary pain, it's temporary. You just keep working, keep putting in the work for yourself, for your business, for your family, and you're going to get to the top of that peak again.
You are. But one thing to keep in mind too when we're in that valley, think about like a literal valley. where does the water flow?
Mm.
Where's all the greenery?
Yeah.
Life is in the valley. That's where you learn life.
Yeah.
And I mean, you see the beauty when you get to the peak,
Right.
but life is in that valley. And
Hmm.
I love that part of the analogy of a valley, to just think about that.
Yeah.
There's beauty in the valley too. And
Yes.
we a lot of times we just want the peak.
Right.
We don't want the valley, but we do forget where the greenery is. We forget where
Mm.
the water is and where the water
Yeah.
flows.
I
And
love that.
that's in the valley. Well, thank you so much for your time on here, MK. I have
Yes.
had a wonderful time, and I think it's been a great conversation. I think that there's a lot of golden nuggets, a lot of value that can be taken away from this conversation. So thank you very much. Where can my audience connect with you? Because I know that there's a lot of them that are going to want to know more about Beyond the Scale.
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Mary Katherine Stahl, and then also marykatherinestahl.com is my website. And then my podcast is Beyond the Scale. And we're on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. And then if you're interested in Fit Body Bootcamp, you can just go to fitbodybootcamp.com and type in your zip code to see if there is a location near you.
That sounds great. So, hey, y'all go follow MK and catch her podcast and check Fit Body Bootcamp out. And I'm going to do that myself. So, but I want to thank you for joining me today on Get Your Rear in Gear with Lori. And I hope y'all have had as wonderful of a time with MK as I have. Remember, all your life you've had a choice, and remember the day that you decided. And until next time, keep moving forward to be the person that God created you to be. I'll see y'all later.